Okay, hello, and welcome to our webinar. I'm Dr. Beverly Sorrells. I'm one of the acupuncturists here at Root Healing Wellness and a licensed acupuncture physician. I will be introducing Dr. Jean Healy in just a minute, but before I do, I want to go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping up front. I know with the last few months, we've been doing more and more Zooms than ever, everybody. But in case you're new to Zoom or you haven't been on Zoom for a while, I just want to bring your attention to a couple of things. If you look to the bottom of your screen, you will either see a Q&A box icon, or maybe you'll see like a little hand. If you have a question, that's where you want to go. Either click to raise your hand or type your question in the question and answer box, and we will get to you as soon as we can with your question. We also have the chat feature right to the side of that. That's where you can, put comments, things like, hey, I didn't realize, that this could, peptides could do this, or anything you feel free to share, go ahead and do that. In fact, if you'd like, you can go ahead and test that out by going in the chat box now and let us know where you're from. So for instance, I'll type in, I am here currently in beautiful Dunedin, Florida, where it's nice and about 75 degrees. And you can share where you're at as well. And then what we'll be doing partway through the seminar, Dr. Jean is going to share with you an opportunity for a consultation that will be free to everybody who schedules a consultation during the webinar. So we implore you to go ahead and do that while you have the opportunity, a chance to get one-on-one and see how this can individually benefit you, this information. We have panelists that will also be reaching out to you through chat during the time too, because we've had a lot of interest in this, so we want to make sure that you don't miss out. So I think that's pretty much all the housekeeping news. We got somebody from Sonoda Sasso, which I'm probably killing that pronunciation. Cool. And I think we're going to have somebody joining on from Utah as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce Dr. Jean. We got Lisa in Palm Harbor. Awesome. Welcome. So Dr. Jean Healy, he is also a licensed acupuncturist. He is the founder and the owner of Root Healing Wellness. And at this time, Jean, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right. Hey, everybody. How are you? I just took off the screen share just a second so you could see my face. I hope the little virtual backdrop is pleasing to the eye. We know that the beaches are open, and if you've been there recently, you might notice that there's a lot of people at the beaches. Some of us are feeling kind of cooped up, but it's a virtual screen share. It's maybe a little wavy. I don't want you to feel a little bit freaked out by it. But I'm Dr. Healy. What I'm going to do is we're going to start our presentation now, and I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more to you as we go forward with this presentation. You will be reached out to privately by the other panelists, so don't be alarmed. The chat function is really quite simple. You can just kind of put everything in the chat. And when you have, for example, if a panelist reaches out to you, they can reach out to you in a private chat. That way, if you feel like, for example, information like your phone number or email or something, you don't have to share that with everybody. Okay? So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about this exciting information that we have for you today. So this is us, Root Healing Wellness. We're in Dunedin, Florida. So I want to tell you what our goals for today are and what we're trying to accomplish. We're going to talk about why belly fat is dangerous and what to do about it, how to spot common hormone problems that drain energy and cause weight gain, which foods trigger gut problems for you. Let me tell you something, it's different for everyone. The biggest secret about nutrition, this is really exciting, it has nothing to do with what you are eating. Why peptides are the secret weight loss weapon of the 20s, and how to boost your brain health and invigorate your whole body. So can you relate to this scenario? Are you tired of always feeling fatigued or in pain? Are you holding back on doing things you once loved because of your health? Do you feel like you've tried everything? Well, I can tell you it's probably not your fault. It's probably other reasons. This is just a funny slide, but most of us have reasons that we don't know of. We have reasons like medications. We have reasons like hormones. And we're going to talk about these reasons today because belly fat and weight is not just about what you're eating and how much you're moving. Did you know that 76% of visits to the doctor end in a prescription? This is in 2018. Many of you out there might be taking a bunch of prescriptions. Now, I'm not saying prescriptions are good or bad. They have a purpose, right? They can save lives. But we do know that prescriptions are often given as Band-Aids, and they're really not curing much. In fact, if I were to ask you out there, how many of you are actually taking a prescription that cures something? Most of you would be very hard-pressed to kind of put something down. All the prescriptions that we normally give for chronic disease, like blood pressure medication, diabetes, thyroid medication, none of these are actually curing anything. So Americans are more than twice as likely to rate the pharmaceutical industry negatively, 58% to 27%. Because what they do, you can look at this graph here, you see Johnson & Johnson, they're only spending 8.2% on research and development. The other portion, they're spending almost, that's not percent, that's billions actually. So it's twice as much that they are spending on advertising. So that's interesting. Pharmaceutical companies are always complaining about the costs of research and development, but you see that they're spending twice as much on advertising as they are on actual research and development. This is a very famous ad by Lipitor that ran, and it was very splashy at the time. It came out and it said it reduces the risk of heart attack by 36%. That's a very exciting number. It was actually the #1 prescribed medication in the world at the time. But when they started to do the long-term studies, what they found out was this. The median postponement of death between primary and secondary prevention trials was only 3.2 and 4.1 days. That means the average person only lived 3 to 4 days longer while they're taking literally decades of Lipitor. And we know that Lipitor has side effects. You can get things like muscle cramping, neuropathy, higher chance of diabetes, higher chance of Alzheimer's, and that for literally 3 or 4 more days of life. Not only that, it's deceptive marketing. What that means is if you look at the fine print, what they do is they explain it to you here. 3% of patients taking a sugar pill or placebo had a heart attack, compared to 2% of patients taking Lipitor. That is not an absolute risk of 36%. That's what's called relative risk. The absolute risk is really only 1% and 3 to 4 days difference with the risk of side effects. Oftentimes you've experienced this kind of scenario where you go to a doctor, you feel terrible, you're having a hard time with something, and the doctor says, good news is your labs look all normal. And you say, really, doctor, how can that be? You've tested me, you're telling me everything's normal, but I don't feel well, and you know something is wrong. Well, we would like to say that the lab ranges are oftentimes incorrect. So let's take, for example, diabetes. If you have a blood glucose, a fasting glucose between 100 and 126, you're pre-diabetic. So once 125, that is. So once you get to 126, you're a diabetic. What happens is lifelong medications. So what's the difference between that 125 and 126? It's 1 point. But that 1 point determines lifelong medications or not. So that's very interesting. So even when you're in the range, you can be out of the range. Is this you? Would you say that you're not proactive, or are you proactive? We know it's in Florida here. We can have a tendency to be pretty hot. In the summertime, we might want to walk our dogs in our car because of all the heat. But we would have to say that this lack of proactivity is one of the reasons for America's health crisis. When I ask patients, because I ask them all the time, I've given talks literally all over the country on many different topics. Today we're talking about belly fat, and I've never had an audience tell me that they thought that America was proactive. They always say that we're reactive. But what I'd like to say for you is I don't think that's the case. Patients like yourself are the best kind of patients. You're taking the time to learn about this topic. You're listening to the webinar. You are proactive patients, and you have the best chance of success and recovery. So I figured out a simpler way to lose belly fat and by creating health. And what I want to do is I want to walk you through it today. Hey, this is me, by the way. I told you I was going to tell you a little bit about myself, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself through a couple of stories. This is me actually in Cambodia. I was doing acupuncture. to this Cambodian villager, and there are literally 12 other Cambodians all around the bamboo mat, and I had a translator because I don't speak the language of Cambodia. And I only have one picture of my days kind of traveling at the time and doing free medicine for these small villages, and that's because somebody took it of me, and that's why it's so arty and nice and black and white. It's past my personal capabilities. But I want to tell you a couple of stories, one now and one at the end, because I think stories really help people learn. So at the time, I was just a young man in college, and I was just dissatisfied. I was looking for answers. I was searching for a way to get the root of our problems as human beings. I was fed up with options in healthcare being only shots, pills, and surgery, like many of you out there are fed up. Don't get me wrong, sometimes these solutions are necessary, and they have literally saved millions of lives. But they don't work for weight loss, and they don't work for chronic disease. I was looking for a holistic solution that included the body, the mind, and medicine. Everything changed when I realized that what I wanted was to find a path to true healing. I lived in South Korea as a young boy because my dad was in the military, and my searching led me back there after college. In South Korea, I started studying meditation, martial arts, and yoga. I spent a lot of time in temples and studying with monks. I even contemplated becoming a monk for about 20 years. That's true. I was also introduced to acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. I came back to the States to become a doctor of Oriental medicine, but something in me still had more to study in Asia. So I returned to Asia, and I ended up living in Asia, honestly, about 18 years of my life. And I've traveled, and at this point, I've done medicine in 8 different countries across the world. But I'm not saying that one country or one medical system is better. I realized that advances in medicine were taking place here in America that were really exciting. So I came back because I was particularly excited about 2 main areas. One, functional medicine. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Functional medicine is the use of diagnostic labs, very deep labs that look at root causes, also coupled with lifestyle changes, nutritional changes, and supplementation. And also regenerative medicine, which is stem cell therapy, which is what most commonly people understand it to be. And now we have a practice here, Root Healing Wellness in Dunedin, and we've treated over 50,000 patients here at this location. But none of this could have happened unless I had 2 realizations that I had in my last meditation in Korea. I want to take the share off so you can see me for a second. So when I was in Korea, and the last time I was there and I was doing a meditation retreat, I think it was like 9 years ago at this point, I had 2 strong realizations that I learned, and I think that this is important to you. I learned that I didn't want to become a monk for the right reasons. I wasn't interested in becoming a monk to become a monk and proselytize. I wanted to become a monk because I wanted to run away from suffering. But I realized very clearly that that's an impossible thing to do. If any of you out there have figured a way to run away from suffering, please type it in the chat because I want that secret. Please let me know. I realized that that couldn't be done. I realized that what I had to do is I had to turn around and I had to face it. I had to face what was bothering me. And at the same time, what I realized that what we needed was we needed help. We needed a community, that nobody gets there alone. So when we're going to talk about the rest of this presentation about belly fat and health, we're going to talk about ways that not only you can help yourself, but you can have a community. You can have people who can guide you, because what everybody needs is a guide and accountability. Okay, I'm going to go back to Sharon. So what is the functional medicine process? What we do is we use diagnostic testing to identify causes from each of the 5 pillars of health. For example, inflammation can cause weight gain. How many of you know what your inflammatory numbers are? Is there anybody out there that does? Every once in a while, sometimes people say, yeah, I've had my C-reactive protein checked, but only that number. And honestly, very few, like less than 5% of the patients. Most people haven't had that checked. There are many other markers of inflammation, gut inflammation, homocysteine, and we check these things. We use corrective medicine, for example, peptides that can effectively turn on metabolic pathways. The medicine of the future is here with regenerative, functional, and Chinese medicine. Today, you're going to learn to listen to your body, and you're going to identify the root causes of your health problems. With this, I want you to feel empowered and be able to take care of yourself, show up for your family, and take your life off hold again. So the best part is you don't have to be a hardcore, any special kind of dieter. You don't have to be a vegan or a paleo or a keto dieter. You don't have to weigh yourself daily or give up things and foods that you love to succeed. You don't have to do sit-ups 5 days a week. You don't have to wait for months to start feeling better. I want to tell you a little bit about Robert's experience. So Robert, he is a type 2 diabetic, and he had burning neuropathy. That means he had nerve damage in his toes. His toes were actually purple. I saw him one day because I was treating his wife, and his toes were purple. He was wearing sandals because we live in Florida. And I looked at him, I said, Robert, you are in trouble. You're going to have to get those things cut off. They're looking terrible. So he started working with us due to his neuropathy. And what happened is his neuropathy improved and went away. But not only that, we started working with him with his weight and with his internal organ function. And what happened was he lost 23 pounds in 17 days. His blood sugar went down from a 150 to a 95. He feels great and he highly recommends us. So Robert is just a pretty typical case. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer all of you consultations, an ability to have a one-on-one consultation to really talk about what's going on with your health in a way that you haven't been able to talk to at another provider in your life. So we're going to offer this only to the end of this particular webinar for free. Normally there's a charge for it, so it's complimentary if you sign up for one during the time of this webinar. And what we're going to have our panelists do is Suzanne, she might reach out to you individually to ask you if you're interested in this. And also if you wanted a consultation, what you could just do is type it in the chat box, say, hey, I'd love a consultation. And then what will happen is one of the panelists will reach out to you and they will go ahead and schedule that for you right away, okay? I see we have a raised hand. Dr. Beverly, do you have a question?
Oh, let's see.
That's great. So if you have questions, you're welcome to raise your hand, or you're even welcome to just put them in the chat box. The easiest way to do it is just put it in the chat box, your question, and then we can all see it, okay?
Yes, because I'm not showing anything in the question. Maybe with the hand you need to
You have to unmute. So what I'm
unmute
gonna tell
him.
you is the mute function is there because we got too many people on. If we just let everybody talk, it'd be chaos and it'd be really noisy. So let's not raise our hands. I know some of you have questions. Just kind of type them in the chat box. And what will happen is Dr. Beverly, she's going to go ahead and read them out to me. I want to make sure you get your questions answered, okay? We're going to give you all an opportunity to have all of your questions answered. So I want to ask you, as a couple of you did have your hands raised, go ahead, type your questions. I really love the interaction because what I want in this new digital age is we want to find a way to connect with you. And what we're missing is this connection because we're all feeling so isolated. So we're using technology and we want to create this interaction so you feel a sense of community. But what would be different for you if you were able to look and feel your best? Do you mind if I show you exactly how we can help you achieve your health again? We're going to talk about 3 secrets to health. We're going to talk about how your hormones determine how old and young you feel. You could be eating carrots and doing nothing but breathing air. You're not going to lose weight if your hormones are off, your thyroid is off. We're going to talk about peptides and how they actually transform belly fat into energy. We're going to talk about nootropics and how they unlock your brain's potential at any age. And also secret discovery number 3, we're going to talk about your gut. It's not what you eat, it's when you eat. We're going to talk about something called time-restricted eating. Discovery number 1, does this feel like you? After midday, do you feel pooped, that you don't have any energy? Some of you might feel like this right away when you wake up, or definitely at the end of the day. You just feel like you don't have that energy to carry on. Hormones determine how young and old you feel. Or how about this? Our lifestyle is often lived like we're pushing the gas and the brakes at the same time. Hormones can give us anxiety or headaches, cold hands and feet, hair loss, and thinning hair. So when you're taking, for example, hormone replacement therapy, I personally don't feel comfortable with it. Some of you out there might be taking it. Did you know that the risks of hormone replacement therapy are basically cancer, heart attack, and stroke? That's why they have to monitor your hormone levels. But did you know that there are other natural options to improve hormone levels without those risks? Because there are things like peptides, things like supplementation, things like Chinese herbal medicine can help with those things without those risks.
Hey, Dr. Jean,
Yes.
we have a question from Mary. She was wondering if you're doing a parasite cleanse, should you also take probiotics?
The answer to that is probably yes. So there's a couple of things about that's a very good question, Mary. Parasite cleanses are some things that we do prescribe to patients, but what we do is we test you first. What patients don't know is you could have parasites. It's true. When we test our population, about 10% of our patients actually turn up with parasites. It's 10%. They're walking around with little critters and they don't know it. So one, parasites also have a growth cycle. So if they're in a sleeping dormant cycle, sometimes in fecal matter, you might not have anything show up. So you could have a parasite and not actually know it. So what we want to do is we want to test, not guess. We want to test before, do a cleanse, and test after. And oftentimes with a parasite cleanse, you can't just eat a bunch of pumpkin seeds. It's not that simple. You have to do a little bit more comprehensive way. So you can kind of be broad spectrum to make sure you're getting everything. Don't just rely on like one product. That's why we kind of mix it up. Would it be useful to do probiotics at the same time? The answer is yes, because you're repopulating good gut bacteria as it's kind of fighting that process. So that's a very good question. And that kind of shows this initiative that we like. But oftentimes what patients need is they need a little bit more professional guidance in the matter. Okay, professional guidance will get you a thorough result as opposed to kind of do-it-yourself mentality, which could be useful, but oftentimes is missing something. But that's a great question. How about depression? Depression is a leading cause of disability around the world with 20% increase over the last decade, and that could be hormonally based. Constipation, is this your morning face? Weight gain. I want to tell you about 4 different types of hormonal bodies. We have what's called the adrenal body here. You can see that we have weight gain around the middle and around the backside and the hips. That's when your adrenal function is off. We test for adrenal function, cortisol, DHEA. We're even going to show you a little bit more about that later. We have, when you have hormones off like estrogen and testosterone, you can have kind of this pear-shaped body where you have more saddlebags and more weight gain in the lower body. A thyroid body is where you gain weight all over. That's this third picture. And when the liver has a detox problem, you can often see this kind of pot belly that you see, often in men actually as they get a little bit older. So cortisol is in adrenals and belly fat. Cortisol is our long-term stress hormone. If your cortisol levels are off, you're not going to lose weight. Epinephrine is our short-term stress hormone. Cortisol works with adrenaline, epinephrine, to create memories of short-term emotional events. This is the proposed mechanism for storage of flashbulb memories and may originate as a means to remember what to avoid in the future. It helps us with our fight or flight. It tells us what's dangerous. So cortisol, as you can see, should be the highest in the morning. That's what wakes you up. It should taper off naturally throughout the day, and it should go and start to be at its lowest point when you go to sleep around 10. It has an inverse relationship with melatonin. As cortisol goes up, melatonin goes down. So sometimes people experience this wakefulness at 3 o'clock in the morning. You wake up and you go pee and you maybe can't go back to sleep. It could be because your cortisol is going up and your melatonin level is too low. But also cortisol should go down and your melatonin should start to go up at night. And this can be another cause why people cannot sleep at night. So what we have here is actually a cortisol panel from one of our patients. We have the name gone, of course. What we see is here, the green is what the patient should be, and the blue is actually what the patient is. So the patient has a very difficult time waking up. Their cortisol is very low in the morning. Their total cortisol is actually only 17, and the minimum is 23. So what we have now is a root cause, an explanation for why they're tired in the morning, and also why they don't have any energy. So let me ask you, if you go to your doctor with this cortisol profile, you don't have anything like a tumor, then what are they going to give you? The answer is actually nothing. There is no medical solution to this problem unless you have something like Addison's disease. There's no solution, but there are ways for us to naturally help you resolve this. And we've demonstrated and done it literally hundreds, thousands of times. we want to talk about peptides. Peptides are really exciting. They're all natural products. What they are is chains of amino acids. And what they are is smaller than proteins, so they're very readily absorbable, and you don't get side effects from them. We're going to talk about a couple specifically related to belly fat. For example, AOD 9604. I know they have kind of futuristic names. So AOD 9604, it works to enhance the activity of beta-3 receptors and improve metabolism in the human system. It speeds up the fat burning process. AOD 9604 sparks off the release of extra fat from fatty tissues and prevents more of it from building up. Main areas include the abdomen, the buttocks, the chin, flabby arms, and also even around the knees. We also have other peptides that we like to use for belly fat, for example, 5-amino-1-MQ. As fat cells grow larger, they begin to overproduce an enzyme called NNMT, which slows down fat cell metabolism, which is fat burning. As fat tissue grows, more NNMT is produced. Greater amounts of hormones and pro-inflammatory signals are produced that are responsible for weight gain and other chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. What you can see is it becomes a vicious cycle. 5-amino-1-MQ, researchers at the University of Texas, they discovered a molecule that blocks this metabolic slowdown in the white fat cells caused by NNMT. You can see the white fat cell is very large here, and it's crowding out everything else in the whole cell. By blocking the metabolic slowdown, they were able to increase the metabolism with the white fat cells. Researchers add that by inhibiting the NNMT enzyme, we can increase fat cell metabolism and reduce the size of white fat deposits. We lose weight because we're treating the root cause of obesity. What happens is as the white fat cell shrinks and we speed up metabolism, you get more brown fat, which is where the mitochondria live and actually generate energy. So what are the benefits of lipotropic injections? There are three basic delivery mechanisms for peptides. Some are injected. Their diabetic insulin needles are very comfortable. They're self-injected. They can be done, and you do them in courses. This isn't something you take every day for the rest of your life. What we're not interested in is giving you something that you take every day for the rest of your life, just like what your doctor's giving you now. That's not what we're trying to do for you. What we're trying to do is solve root causes. Some you can take orally, and some you can actually use as a cream. So you have basically 9 different benefits. It can reduce stored fat, enhance metabolism, improving fat burning, can increase energy levels. You can improve function of liver and gallbladder, preserve lean body tissue, muscle basically. It has a rapid onset. What that means is people can start to actually feel better. Metabolism increases, fat loss starts to happen, maybe without any other changes, literally within a couple of weeks. Oftentimes people start to feel much better, come to like 4-week period. It provides superior absorption of essential nutrients. It improves liver detoxification, improves mood and mental clarity. These are some of the references that we have. You're welcome to check our research. You're welcome to look it up because every one of you is going to get a copy of this webinar that we're having today. We're just going to email you a copy of this tomorrow, so you'll have a copy of this whole recording. If you want to check our sources, you're welcome to look that up. We're happy for you to do that. We want to give you some other simple solutions. Old way, more than 6 hours a day in front of a digital screen. Anxiety bomb. It creates so much tension and anxiety. New way, why don't you get to sleep easier, feel better throughout the day? Try not to look at any screens at least 1 hour before bed. Give your mind a way to kind of calm down, especially with the blue light. The blue light mimics sunlight and your body starts to become awake and the circadian rhythms are broken and changed. And because of that, people can't sleep in their natural sleep patterns. This is Sandy. She said she came to see us with low energy, knee pain. She wanted to lose weight. After treatments and a detox, she got off sugar, and now she has no to low cravings. This is very important. I know a lot of us out there crave things like sugars. But what if it's not just your cravings, it's also things like yeast growing in your body. As you start to not eat sugar, the yeast, they don't want to die. Nothing likes to die. It's going to crave and it's going to make you want it more. But what if we could do a thorough process that could not only help you lose weight, will help you achieve things like killing off yeast. And then what happens is your cravings actually go down. So she had high energy, her knee pain's gone. She felt like exercising for the first time. She lost 11 pounds in just 2 weeks. She's very happy with us, even though she's seen a lot of other holistic practitioners and Oriental medicine doctors. She thinks that well, anyway, we like her very much and she likes us very much too. So don't forget, if you want results like this, what we're trying to do is we're just offering you consultations, and these consultations, there's a charge for them, but they're free only if you sign up for a consultation during this webinar. So if you want one, what you do is you can just say, hey, I'd like a consultation, and somebody will reach out to you in a private chat. And also Suzanne, another of my staff members, she will be reaching out to all of you in a private chat to see if you want to schedule that consultation. But they are limited. They're only available to the end of this webinar. And we're really only looking to accept it. But in our office, we basically have four different practitioners. We have 3 acupuncture physicians and also a DO, which is a doctor of osteopathic medicine. So there's 4 medical providers in our practice. And we're really full practice. Even with COVID, what's happened is we've stayed very busy. And we're only looking to accept between 5 to 8 patients a week. So these consultations are limited, and we use them for those patients that are good quality patients that we can have a good relationship with. Let's talk a little bit about your brain. How healthy is your brain? Do you even know? Do you have brain fog? Low serotonin symptoms could include loss of joy, guilty, depression, disinterested in life, poor memory and stress. Low dopamine is no reward center, poor connection and lonely. Oftentimes when you're eating late at night, like come 9 o'clock at night, it's because your dopamine levels are quite low. You've worked, you've been busy, and your reward center is depleted. Your dopamine levels are depleted. And because of that, you try to grab for something with like a quick reward. And that's why we feel a little bit snacky come that time in the evening. It also could be blood sugar regulation, depending upon what's going on with that. How nootropics work in the brain. 1, they regulate the activity of neurotransmitters. Those are the chemicals that are sent back and forth between and create signals in the brain. They improve blood flow. They increase neuroprotection. They reduce inflammation, and they increase brain growth factors. This is Patty. She's a wonderful patient. She's an MD, a good personal friend of mine. After treatments with us, she had a problem with walking. She had a brain issue, and she had instability. But now she can walk with more stability. Her brain fog has lifted, and her energy is better than it's been in years. So if you'd like to feel like Patty, let us know you want a consultation. Secret discovery number 3. We are a Lysol killing nation, killing all bacteria possible. Right now, of course, we got to do this because we're worried about COVID, and that's perfectly reasonable. But did you know that 95% of bacteria is helpful, and it's essential for the gut? The gut is actually the second brain of the body. GI and autoimmune symptoms. If you have brain fog or dry skin, muscle pain, oftentimes fibromyalgia, weight loss or gain, rapid heartbeat, or abdominal pain. These could be signs of GI symptomology, autoimmune symptoms, often triggered by what we call leaky gut. So we're not just talking about leaky gut that you're guessing you might have or someone said you might have. What about actually testing for it? What about testing for the mucosal lining of your intestines where your good and bad bacteria live and compete? Do you even know basic things like, do you have good gut bacteria? I think everybody in the audience would acknowledge, and actually all MDs will, that having good gut bacteria is important for your digestive and immune health. It's necessary. But does anyone in the audience out there, do any of you know if you have good gut bacteria? Have you ever been tested? You might not even know something that we consider to be so basic. So not only do we test for that, we test for something called your Sig-A, which is the mucosal lining of your intestines, which is that force field that prevents this leaky gut process. All of these things can be known and repaired. How about 3 foods that can trigger leaky gut? Gluten. Gluten is a big molecule. It's often found in breads and pastas. Casein. Casein is found in milk products and sugar. These things can trigger a leaky gut process. We're not saying you can never have these things again. We're saying that we can even test you to see if these things are bothering you. It might be different for all of us. There's so many things that we can educate you on to actually help you improve your body and your gut by yourself. What most people need is education and guidance to thrive. If we do it by ourselves, we have kind of what we call like a Home Depot mentality. If any of you had to do like a repair in your house and you're like, I'm just going to watch YouTube, and you went to Home Depot and bought all the necessary stuff, and then when you got to repair it, what you noticed was it was a lot harder than you thought. You didn't do such a great job. You had to call a professional anyway, and it ultimately ended up costing you more. So there are so many things that we can show you with the right guidance that you can do to learn to educate yourself so you can take care of your health better. Also, a healthy clock. When you eat is actually just as important as what you eat. And when you eat at a proper time, what happens is you start to develop a healthy clock. That means you're going to sleep better, your muscle reaction time will be better, your pancreas is going to reduce insulin and glucagon at the right rate, the right time, your liver function is going to improve, your blood pressure is going to go down, cardiovascular ability, muscle strength improve, and your alertness and cognitive ability will increase. But if you have a disrupted clock, you get poor sleep quality, your muscle function decreases, your insulin resistance increases, and you can get type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, depression, and mental health issues. I want to tell you about this wonderful study that was conducted with mice, and this is what's called time-restricted eating. Oftentimes in the layman's terminology, people think of it as, I forget it at this point, but we call it time-restricted eating. What happens is they took these mice, these obese mice, and they let them eat whatever they want, and they let them eat anytime that they wanted. And just as we expected, what happened is they turned into morbidly obese mice. But they took the same obese mice, and what they did, they only changed one thing. They changed the time they were allowed to eat. They let them eat in an 8-hour window. And what happened is that they became obese, but very, very fit mice. Then we took lean mice. They ate whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And what happened was they became obese mice. But then you took those lean mice, and what you restricted was just the time that they ate. And what happened is they became lean and fit mice. Because these results were so interesting, people often call this intermittent fasting, but actually the technical term is time-restricted eating. But what's very interesting is these doctors, they said, what would happen if we adapted this to our modern lifestyle? Like 5 days a week, we go to work, and then what on the weekends if we gave ourselves a little bit more time? What would happen? So they took those same lean mice, they restricted them during the work days, 5 days a week, and then on the weekends, they let them relax, and what happened is they stayed lean, fit mice. So when you eat can be just as important as what you eat. And what we often talk about with patients is kind of restricting their eating to, in the beginning, just a 12-hour time period, okay? We've really gotten away from that in our current process in America. So we can use timed eating for the most efficient digestion. No more crashing or waking up in the middle of the night from heartburn or bloating. No more unwanted belly fat or fatigue. Even simple medications that many of you are on now, for example, medications for heartburn, acid reflux. Doctors used to give those literally for 20, 30, 40 years. And we're very cautious about that now. The prescription of those have started to go down because what we're learning is people are getting very strong side effects and actually dying from things like kidney disease from something as simple as acid reflux medication. So you're probably here because you want to get a little bit of clarity on your health, and we want to help you with that. We want to have your healthy self be broken down into something very simple that we can teach you how to heal thyself. When you become aware of how to best care for yourself, you start to love the way you feel about your health and about your life. So are you tired of the pain and poor health? I want to ask you, how does your health affect your life? Is it keeping you from doing the things that you want in life? Is it keeping you from being active? Is it keeping you from enjoying life? Is it affecting your relationships? Are you unable to go out and meet friends like you want? Are you unable to do simple things like pick up your grandkids like you want? Is it affecting your ability to effectively work? What is the true cost of actually not doing anything? What is the toll, not just financially, but what is the toll physically and mentally on this one life that you have? So what we do is we offer simple health strategy, which is based in science. We like to test, not guess. As I told you, we can test inflammation. We can test autoimmunity. We can test leaky gut. We can test which foods are bothering you. We can test your hormones. We can test your cortisol. All of these are basic things that we can test. And not only do you feel better, we can prove it to you. We can show you your labs improve on a piece of paper. It's an objective finding. You can see that it improves. How many of you go to the doctor and you're having terrible labs and they're worrying about other things besides cholesterol, because that seems to be all that people talk about, and then your labs actually go the other way. They actually improve and get you out of danger zones. We do next generation treatments like peptides, functional nutrition, and brain rejuvenation, medicine that focuses on age reversal, pain-free movements, and enjoying life with health coaching. We all do better with a coach and a mentor. Hey, this is me. I want to show you a quick picture of me and my family. I told you I was going to tell you two stories, and this is a picture of me, my wife, her name is Serena, and our beautiful daughter, Alina. Alina, she's 3 years old. This was her first Halloween. We all went dressed up as a pumpkin patch. But I wanted to show you this picture for a reason, to kind of highlight a teaching moment and a second story. If you don't mind, let me just indulge me for a second with a second story. So I'm going to take it off the screen share just so you don't have to see my face blown up that big. But I want to tell you a quick story. As I told you earlier, I thought about becoming a monk, and that's true. I thought about that for about 20 years of my life. And as I was thinking about that, I was in South Korea, and I met my beautiful wife, Serena, and I met her, and we both liked each other very much right from the beginning. But when I met her, I told her right from the beginning, I said, hey, I don't want you to get too fond of me because I might become a monk. And she thought that was the craziest pickup line she'd ever heard. But what she didn't realize was that wasn't a pickup line, because I actually don't know any pickup lines, and I wouldn't be creative enough to come up with that one. But I was telling her honestly because my heart wasn't settled. So we dated for about 4 years. And remember earlier, when I told you that when I was in my last meditation retreat in Korea, I realized two very important things. I realized that I didn't want to become a monk for the right reasons, that I was trying to run from suffering, and that wasn't possible. And I also realized that we all need people to truly reach our potential. I realized that very clearly. So what I realized I wanted to do was go back to Serena, marry her, and go back to my profession, which is a doctor, and come back to the States and really do these next generation treatments. But what she did was 2 days after this realization, she gave me a call and she broke up with me right there in the temple, and she actually broke my heart. It was terrible for me. So I left the temple that very day, and I went on this whole process of kind of seeking her and kind of winning back her trust. And let me tell you, she put me through my paces. She made me work very hard for it because she had waited 4 years. 4 years is a long time to wait for somebody. So I respect her patience. But the point of me telling you this story is what it was for me is it was what I call a crossroads moment. So a crossroads moment is a time in your life in which your life can go one way or the other. And it will invariably change your life for better or for worse. Okay? So most of you here are actually at a crossroads moment. You're unsatisfied with your health. If you weren't, you wouldn't be watching this webinar today. The fact that you're listening to this webinar, especially up to this point, shows that you are not only unsatisfied, but you're really looking for a solution, and you're a proactive person. So if you make the right choice at this crossroads, I want you to take a second and let's think about, and let's just try to visualize, what would it be like when we make the right choice at this crossroads here today? I want you to picture the look on your friends' faces when they see you and they see the new and healthier you. Or even, can you hear the excitement in their voices when they say, wow, what have you been doing? You look great. Or can you feel the confidence in your chest? The confidence that you will feel when you know that you're taking the right steps to permanently improve your health.
Hey, Jean, we got some great response for the webinar. Catherine is signed up, and we've also been talking with Lucy, Denise, Helen, Skip, and Mary Kay, and also great. Beverly and Robin.
That's
so
wonderful.
A lot of people wanting to jump on the train here.
Well, that's wonderful. I want to give a quick shout out. I'm going to go back to the screen share. I want to give a quick shout out to those wonderful patients that decided to move forward with a consultation for us. That's great. We really think at this crossroads moment, what you did was you made the right choice, the proactive choice to get a hold of what's going on with your health. And we really applaud that. We're going to continually have Suzanne, the other people that we were talking to, she's going to be talking to you, and she's going to make sure she's scheduled for something today, so you have that locked in, because we do have limited consultations. So that's wonderful. Thanks to all of you. I want to give you a couple more quick testimonials. This is from Susan. She came to us she had a lot of digestive complaints, multiple autoimmunities, and she wanted some weight loss. And she started working with us, and she lost 18 pounds in 3 weeks. Her digestion is much better. Her autoimmunity is improved. Her thyroid autoimmune numbers are gone. And she feels very comfortable working with us, and she's a wonderful patient. There's also Christina. She's a very interesting person. You know, I really love her. One of my favorite patients. She lost about 20 pounds, and she had a lot of anxiety and depression, and it was affecting her life. Is it affecting her marriage? It was affecting her relationship with her children, and it was affecting her job. And now she's one of the brightest, honestly, one of the sunniest people I know. I have tremendous love and respect for the work that we've done together with her. So I want you to ask yourself, those of you out there that are still listening, that are really contemplating, what would it be like if I were able to turn on my brain again, lose this brain fog, and really have full function of my brain, have more energy, and really correct my health issues, stop putting Band-Aids on things like what we've been doing. How has your life been affected? What are you unable to do that you want? Isn't life about enjoyment? It's not just about getting by. How are your relationships suffering? Are you feeling that your relationships are being nurtured, or are they being hurt by your health? How's your ability to work, or your ability to enjoy life? On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you really to take care of your problem? So I want to warn you out there, what we want are patients who are 7 and above, and I want to tell you why. We accept A patients, B patients, and C patients, A, B, and C students. And I want to describe them to you. You tell me which one you are. An A student, that's actually probably kind of rare. It's a very motivated student. They're going to do all the assignments the teacher is going to give them. They're really going to excel from the get-go. Most people are B students. B students want to do well. They just haven't been given the guidance that they needed. And now they're getting that guidance. What they do is they follow through, and they improve, and they do very, very well. But they need help, which is most of us. A C student procrastinates. Always have an excuse for why can't they get started? Why can't they make what needs to happen happen? So what we're looking for is A and B students. We're not looking for C students. As I said, we really only accept about 5 to 8 patients per week. We're relatively full practice, and what we're trying to do is work with those that we can get the best results for. So the first process in a consultation is learning about you and actually finding out, are we a good fit? Can we accept you into care? So what we're offering, as I said, is a consultation special. It's currently complimentary. Our normal value, what we would charge for this, is $287. So it's complimentary only to the end of this webinar, as I said. It will not last after this webinar. It's just going to go back to our normal price. And what you're going to get is you're going to get a health assessment, and you're going to get a plan of action. So I want you to make sure to take a look at this. We always, when we look at the clock of life, we always think, I'm going to do it later, or nah, not yet. And we always think that we still have time. But most of us are actually getting close to the too late range. When you have multiple autoimmunities, it becomes very hard And all of these things you've tried before haven't worked. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this webinar today. So really be very clear where you are with that. So what I want to do as I'm transitioning, and we're still scheduling consultations. I know my staff is busy out there right now talking to all those people that we've spoken to get a good time for you. And some of you out there, please understand if you're not getting the perfect time, it's because our office is busy. We tried to open up some special times for you for this next week only so we can get you in, but have a little bit of understanding if it's not the exact perfect time that you want. So what I'd like to do is if there are any particular questions right now, I'd like to go ahead and answer any questions as we're finishing up the consultation scheduling process. Is there anybody out there that has a specific question or something they'd like to bring up to me? You're welcome to talk to me. I'm here to give you my time and my knowledge. As you think about that, what I'm going to do, because if there are any of you out there with questions, Dr. Beverly, she's going to let me know, is I'm going to give you a few more stories of success cases that we've had in the past so you can experience, say, okay, maybe that person sounds like me or someone that I know. We worked with this wonderful patient recently. His name is Richard. He came in and he has uncontrolled diabetes. A1C is like 7.8 on 2 medications. His glucose is over 200 every day, and nobody knows why. The 200 is dangerous, a tremendous amount of inflammation. So we started working with him, and now he's off all his diabetic medication. His glucose is down to 4.8. His A1C is down to 4.8. He didn't realize that he had things like thyroid antibodies, and he was an autoimmune patient. He didn't realize that was the reason why his hair was thinning. He didn't know any of this stuff. He didn't realize that his CRP, which is an inflammatory marker, and his homocysteine were literally through the roof, and that he was actually a very high candidate for a heart attack. I see that Mary raised her hand. Hey, Mary, we're not going to do the hand raising just because it requires me to unmute you. Mary, if you feel comfortable, can you just type in your question? I'm happy to answer your question. Just please type it in real quick, and then what Beverly's going to do is just read it out to me. I definitely want to get to you. It's just if I unmute you, it becomes complicated. Too many voices talking, so please just type it in.
Right. And Dr. Jean, we do have a question from Catherine about asking if you could talk about premenopausal weight change.
Oh, that's a great question. We do great with hormones. Hormones is actually, I'm going to spend a whole webinar just talking about hormones. Hormones change, as we know, especially for women. Women go through menopause. Men go through it too. We go through menopause, even though basically women are the ones that are experiencing the most severe symptoms, not just irregular menstruation, but they start to experience this weight gain, start to experience emotional changes like nervousness, anxiety, maybe sleep irregularity, and then they start to get hot flashes, okay, and night sweats. So all of these are addressable, and they're addressable in natural ways. So let's say 30 years ago, what happened with menopause is everybody was just given hormone replacement therapy. Why isn't that done now? The answer to that is actually cancer. Too many women were getting breast cancer, and they realized that that is not what we should be doing for everybody. So now hormone replacement therapy is much, much, much more selective. And even then, if doctors knew there were other solutions, we do a lot of Chinese herbs when it comes to hormones, and our success rate is phenomenal, 90+% with getting those kind of like hot flashes and all of those symptomology under control. Those can be done, and those don't have to be taken forever. Hormone replacement therapy you would do for 10, 20, 30 years. They'd get off at 78 and still get hot flashes, still haven't transitioned. Nobody needs to take hormones for 30 years. You just don't need it. The body's not designed to take something that strong for so long. So these can be done. Honestly, people start feeling better as far as hormones go, honestly, within a couple of weeks, sometimes a few months. And those things are tapered off. Nobody stays on those things forever. But yes, it does affect your weight. You're thinking, I'm eating the same, I'm exercising the same. Why is it that I'm gaining weight? Why is it that I don't feel well? I can't sleep, my energy's down. And all of this is because you need basic resources and you're not getting them. And you can't just eat the right foods to get that. There are no wonderful superfoods that are just going to suddenly change your hormone levels. You do need guidance with someone like us, and we're happy to do that for you. Great. That's great. Any other questions so far with Dr. Beverly?
Not yet. I just put it out there if anybody had some.
Okay, good. So when I was talking about Richard, I'm going to talk a little bit longer to make sure everybody goes ahead and gets scheduled.
Oh, excuse me, Dr. Jean, I do see one now. This one individual said, oh, never mind. Never mind. They wanted
Nope.
consults too.
All
Not a
right, well,
question, but
great.
consults. Okay.
That's great. Well, those concepts are great. What we're going to do is spend time. We're going to get to know you. It's not going to be a 5-minute call. You know, I'm sure you're all very frustrated with having a 5-minute doctor appointment where everybody's just looking at the computer. They're not even looking at you. And it's just a matter of which medication are they going to give you. You go back when it doesn't work and they just give you the next one on the list. It doesn't really feel like medicine, does it? We're going to spend the time to get to know you and try to find the right way to design the right process to get to help you. So when we talk about like what does it cost, what is the process, we'll talk about each of you individually, separately, because everybody has different needs. When we work with a patient, sometimes it ranges just between a couple $100, and sometimes it can be quite expensive because a patient has many difficulties. Could be up to like $10,000. If a patient has cancer, if they have multiple autoimmunities, that's a very different patient than a patient who's doing well and just wants to lose some weight. If a patient has hormones, or if a patient has fibromyalgia, those are all different patients. So we have to talk to get to know each of you individually. And what we're going to give you is specific reasons, because I know you're tired of not knowing why. You're like, why don't I feel well? I don't have a reason to point to. My doctor keeps telling me that I'm okay, but I don't feel okay. I know I'm not the same. So we're going to tell you why. The last thing about Richard, because he's such an interesting, I like to point out one thing. He was a diabetic, as I said. He went to his endocrinologist. His endocrinologist had been in the business 24 years. He had seen tens of thousands of diabetics, tens of thousands. And when he saw Richard get off his medications, he was so surprised. He told him, he said, "You are the 4th patient in 24 years that I've seen get off your medications. Only 4 patients this endocrinologist has seen over tens of thousands in 24 years have been able to get off medications." Do you think that the current way of treating those diseases like diabetes, do you think it's really working? 4 patients out of tens of thousands. I would say it's definitely not. I'm not saying that those meds are bad. They'll keep you alive. I'm not saying to stop your meds. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm saying let's look at root causes and see if we can reverse this disease. Also, things like thyroid medications. How many of you out there have a thyroid issue? You're feeling sluggish. You're taking Armour thyroid. You're taking Synthroid, levothyroxine. You don't feel better. Your doctor keeps saying your TSH is normal, but your symptoms aren't improving because your doctor's not even checking you for things like antibodies. He's not doing a full thyroid panel, checking 3 basic numbers, TSH, T3, T4. We're going to check 8 numbers. We're going to talk about conversion in the gut and the liver. We're going to talk about how it's supported with hormonal and adrenal health, all of those things. So once again, we keep mentioning this root causes, scientific testing to show you, because that's what we're all about here at Root Healing Wellness. Great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, if there are no more questions, because I'm happy to answer more questions, is I might get off in a second. But what we're going to have Dr. Beverly and also Suzanne do is they're going to stay on because they're scheduling these last people. I know there was a lot of interest. I heard, oh my goodness, I think I heard over like 12, 13 names. So there was a lot of interest for our consultations. And what we're doing is we're making sure everybody gets the right time. And as long as they're scheduling people, this consultation will be complimentary. It'll be free to you. And we're going to schedule a time where you can talk to me or Dr. Beverly. And what we're going to do is specifically outline a wonderful plan so we can learn about you and we can get you healthy and really look at your root causes. We have 2 more participants that raised your hands. So I'm going to stay and I'm going to answer these questions. Once again, when you raise your hand, I have to unmute you. I'm so sorry. We explained that incorrectly in the beginning. Is it possible for you to type your question in? Just type it in. If you're able to type it in, then what we can do is I can answer your question, because if I unmute you, it's going to be too many voices. So can you type that in, please? I'm going to wait for you. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, Dr. Jean, did you see from Amanda? She wants to know if vitamin B12 aids with PCOS.
Well, it's possible. So PCOS is oftentimes 2 basic things. It's blood sugar regulation and hormones. The correct B12, once again, you have to know, are you even taking the correct B12? So I'm going to go ahead and take you off the screen share so you can see my face a little bit closer. So B12 is great. But a couple of things about B12. One, they call it intrinsic factor because it's intrinsic to our digestive needs. But many people out there, they have what's called an MTHFR mutation. Some people argue between 40 to 50% of the population. This is new science as of like last 15 years. So a lot of MDs don't talk about it. So if you're getting your B12, for example, from Publix or Walgreens, it's probably what we call cyanocobalamin will be the active ingredient. So for those people who have that MTHFR mutation, cyanocobalamin will not be used by the body well. It can't be methylated. And what will happen is it will actually cause inflammation. So those patients need what's called methylcobalamin. So to find methylcobalamin, you generally have to go to a health food store like Whole Foods, Nature's Food Patch, Wild Oats, something like that. And even when you go there, it's not that all of them have that. So us, what we do here at Root Healing Wellness is when a patient has B12 needs, we're checking you for that, by the way. We give everybody methylcobalamin because everybody can handle that. We just kind of cover our bases. So can it help with PCOS? It can help with the B12 levels, but that doesn't necessarily fix blood sugar issues. Blood sugar is much more complicated than that. Your blood sugar can raise if you have inflammation. You sprain your ankle, blood sugar goes up, PCS grows. Also can raise with inflammation, not just inflammation, but can also raise with cortisol. You go under stress, blood sugar goes up, PCOS gets worse. Plus, even if you regulate your blood sugar, it doesn't regulate your hormones. So hormones need to be regulated, and you can see signs of that, and it'll spill over to things like what's the health of your menses. So we look at all of that, and what we can do is we can shrink those cysts. We've performed that literally on hundreds of patients. The great thing about that is it's an objective finding. You can go, you get an ultrasound, they see, wow, you got a lot of PCOS, you got a lot of cysts going on. Then you work on it, they shrink, you're like, oh my goodness, that got better. Not only did it prevent future problems, it saved your uterus. How many of you out there with PCOS would actually like to keep your organs, would like not to have a hysterectomy? I have a general thing I like to say. I think that the body parts are good and they're necessary. Even if we think we can live without them, like your gallbladder or your appendix, you can live without them, or your tonsils. But they all have a purpose and they make you stronger. So if you can, it's actually better to keep them in you. So we kind of use that as a first rule of thumb. So I said B12 was cyanocobalamin, yeah. So we would just say, you don't know if you have a methylcobalamin issue, methylation issue, we would just say take methylcobalamin. So anytime we give supplementation, we try to test for it, and at the same time, we give you the highest quality. They did this wonderful study where they went into Walgreens and those places, and they checked their supplements, and they checked, do they have even the active ingredients that they're purporting? And it was crazy. It was like 50% of the supplements on the shelf, that's like half, did not even have the active ingredients that were reported on the box. Isn't that crazy? It's basically fraud. So anything that we use very few and limited companies. Anything that we use, we've tested. I've been to oftentimes the treatment facilities on some of these companies, and we feel not only secure, we take them ourselves. I give them to my wife, I give them to my daughter. So these are things that we feel comfortable prescribing, and we can verify the improvement with a lab. We can show you objectively on paper. There was one other person that had a question. They had a raised hand. I'm sorry, if you could you type it in? If not, it's going to be hard for me to, I'm actually not that technologically savvy, so I don't even know how to unmute you to do that. It was a misspeak on our part to tell you to raise your hand. Just kind of type it in, that would be easier. Okay? Okay. So we're still working through the consultation process. There still seems to be several people that we're getting consultations with today. I see that Suzanne is working furiously at that, and we're helping you with that. I'm happy with any other questions you might have. I'm dedicating this time for you today. Once again, all of you are going to get a replay of this in your email, maybe even today, but we're going to send it out either today or tomorrow. And there'll also be other information, like if people like this kind of information, we also have what's called a master class. A master class is something you can sign up for, and it's actually 5 different modules of teaching, which are very intensive and have a tremendous amount of information that were presented by a very good friend of mine called Reagan Archibald. He's in Utah, one of my close friends, one of my mentors actually, a tremendous practitioner who's treated tens of thousands of patients across the country. So you'll have access to that if that's something that you want to do. And of course, the consultation we're giving you through now. Does PCOS cause belly fat? That is where all my weight is. PCOS is caused by blood sugar regulations and hormonal issues. Those are the causes of belly fat. So when you have belly fat all over the midsection and the midsection only, that could point to a couple of things. It could point to hormones, because when I showed you those 4 pictures, we show, do we work with endocrinologists? The answer is yes. When we showed you those 4 pictures, we showed you, for example, the hormone body. When your ovaries and things, your hormones are off, you start to get weight, kind of saddlebags around the belly, that kind of look. Sometimes if you have a very big gut and very big lower shape body, you also have cortisol issues and adrenal issues too. We test for both of those things. So is it the cause? The answer, it's not the cause, it's a result. The cause is blood sugar regulation issues and hormonal issues. And if you go to your doctor and you say you got blood sugar problems, what do? Metformin. They start to look at diabetes medications, right? That's it. And then what do they do for hormones? Birth control pills or hysterectomy, rip it all out. It's funny how they ramp up the treatment so quickly. It's first like, you have hormonal problems, try some birth control, maybe some hormone replacement, let's just take it all out. Then it becomes that kind of solution. So yes, they started you on metformin, I see that, yeah. And it causes floaters in your eyes, isn't that interesting? Floaters in your eyes can also often be cholesterol deposits or sometimes deficiencies. So metformin, what it does is it doesn't remove sugar from your body. It stops the glyconeogenesis in your liver. It keeps the liver from producing and turning things into sugar so you have less sugar in your bloodstream, but it doesn't stop anything for the root cause of why it's there. So this blood sugar is unregulated for a variety of reasons. Sure, what you're eating is important, but also inflammation, also hormones, also thyroid, also cortisol. All of these things are important. So even with PCOS, you can have patients that are doing everything right, but they can still have problems because 1, they can't address the hormones, and 2, the blood sugar, even if they address it with metformin, it's not addressing root causes. So we're really excited to talk to you more about that. There's a lot of information that we can give you about that. Metformin, people say it's safe, but let me ask you, there are side effects with that, higher causes of dementia, higher causes of diabetes, by the way, even though it's a diabetes medication, and other side effects. No drug is meant to be taken for decades on end. Our body's just not designed that way. Okay, great. I hope everybody out there is getting your questions answered. Are we still working on the consultation process? Are we still kind of scheduling people?
I believe we are.
Okay, great. So I'm going to stay on a little bit longer, and I'm happy to answer continuing questions because I want to make sure everybody gets scheduled for their consultation today. Because what we are is we are proactive people. We're a proactive audience. You're a proactive audience, and we're a proactive office. And what we're trying to do is to make sure you get that consultation because they are kind of limited and we're starting to fill up pretty quickly as I see. That's why we can't do too many of these webinars. We just run out of space. But our patients do great. This whole process can be done virtually, which means it can be done by telemedicine. Some patients might want, if you're local and you're in the area and you want to actually come into the office, you feel comfortable. Some patients don't feel comfortable leaving their houses. That's perfectly fine. But if you do feel comfortable, you can. If you don't, we can do it all over the phone. I've literally done it with hundreds, thousands of people all over the phone. You get your labs, you get your coaching, we go over lab review, we send your products in the mail. It becomes a very, very seamless, simple process. It's actually amazing how much telemedicine we've done during this whole COVID process and how patients actually love it. They say it's actually better. They get the same time, the same contact, the same nurturing, but they have the convenience of just staying at home. They don't have to fight traffic. They don't have to rush there. They don't have to think about the commute time, and patients are actually preferring it. So for internal medicine patients like belly fat, autoimmune diseases, things like that, over the phone is enough contact. Other patients, we might have to decide depending upon what's going on. If you have like a knee issue or something like that on top, we might have to have a different kind of conversation. Okay, anybody else out there with any other questions? I'm staying on until we get all of you scheduled. And I'll keep telling you stories, patient stories, and stay on if you have questions. A couple other patients that we could talk about, there's so many. I like to talk about Carolyn. She's also one of my favorite patients. She came into me with skin issues. She had terrible eczema, literally head to toe. She was in her 50s and she'd had this for good like 15, 20 years, and they would scar. It would flake off and she would have all these little scars all over her body. And she'd been on steroids because that's all they give you for skin issues for decades of her life, and it didn't fix anything. And she couldn't get rid of it. And she was literally at her wit's end. So she came to me, and she also knew she had thyroid issues. But besides that, she didn't know what else was going on. And I said, skin issues are invariably in your gut. You're invariably in your gut. So she was really intrigued by that. And we started to do some labs, and we started to schedule her. And then what happened was, as she noticed, we looked at her food. We tested for food sensitivity. She was eating stuff that was bothering her. She didn't even know. Yes, she had a thyroid issue, but she also had antibodies, which means she's autoimmune. Hashimoto's means your body's attacking and destroying thyroid tissue. It's not the same as your thyroid just not working. Different, right? One, your body's destroying tissue. So she had Hashimoto's. She also had adrenal fatigue. Her cortisol was low. She had adrenal fatigue. Her hormones were off. So we started working with her, and her skin started getting better. She lost weight. Her hair started feeling fuller. Her energy picked up. We literally, for her, corrected every lab. Her inflammatory numbers were gone. And her autoimmune antibodies went away. All this didn't happen in 2 to 3 weeks. You know, she's way too complicated to get all that done in 2 to 3 weeks. We've been working with her a while, but she's done so great. Now she's just on maintenance. I just talk to her once a month, and she just goes back and forth from Iowa to Florida. So when she's in Iowa, I just talk to her on the phone. She does great. When she comes to Florida, I see her when she wants to come in, and we're just doing what we call maintenance, and she's really maintaining her health and really taking it to that next level. Somebody asked where we're located. Our physical office is in Dunedin, Florida. If you know Dunedin at all, it's literally right next to Clearwater, Florida. We're right downtown. We're right across the street from Nice Hospital. So if some of you have interest in coming into the office physically, we are open. We are seeing patients physically. We're having extra precautions. And honestly, we're probably the most sanitary place you're going to go into, maybe anywhere. Definitely more sanitary and a safer feeling than going into a doctor's, to a hospital or a grocery store. And these are places that we're going to all the time. So we are open and taking extra precautions, and we're doing great with that. Okay. So I still see that we have several participants still here. So they must still be going through the consultation process. So Dr. Beverly, why don't you reach out to some of these also, so we can have 2 people kind of scheduling at the same time right now. Dan doing it, so we might need you to help her out a little bit. I hope you know how to do these things. I reach out to them privately and look up the schedule. That way we can kind of dual function, and they can get it both done at the same time. Okay. Suzanne, when you're talking to Shelly, that's fine. You're doing it in like to all panelists. Oh, just to panelists. That's why that's a private chat. All right, great, good. So I'll tell you more stories. I'm gonna tell them all. I'm gonna tell so many, and because we scheduled a nice 2-hour block of time for you. My next patient isn't until 2, and I still have time to make sure that I can talk to you and still see that patient. Let me tell you about other stories and other things that we do. Some of you, we've only talked about some of our services. We also do wonderful things like stem cell therapy that can help out with pain. I'll tell you one really amazing story that I had with stem cell therapy, even though that's not really about this topic, but to give you a little bit of a sense of who we are and what we do. We basically do 3 main modalities. We do traditional Chinese medicine. That's things like acupuncture, prolotherapy, Chinese herbal medicine. We also do functional medicine, which are very deep diagnostic labs, talking about the things we've been talking about. It's also coaching. It's also, okay, Beverly's reaching out to Lucy, that's great. It's also things like targeted supplementation, not just willy-nilly. We heard somebody out there was taking cyanocobalamin, and you probably shouldn't. You just didn't know that till now. And we also do things like detoxes and lifestyle coaching. And we also do regenerative medicine, popularly known as like stem cell therapy. Okay, so stem cell therapy is what people know it as, but regenerative medicine is much more evolved than that. And we can talk about that. And sometimes I'll give talks on that, on regenerative medicine. But one particular person He came in, he had a knee issue, and he literally had a floating patella. It means it wasn't attached, and he had had this for like a decade of his life. So what happened was, is if he turned when he stepped, his patella on his knee would actually slide over to the side, hurt like the dickens, and you have to manually take it and move it back over. He was a younger man. He didn't want a knee replacement therapy. His doctor was a great doctor, very responsible. He said, hey, if you get a knee replacement in your lifetime, you might have to get 3. Average knee replacement only lasts 12 years, 15, kind of you're at the top end, sometimes less than that, 8 to 10. So if you're 50, what happens if you get a knee replacement? You get all 15 years, 65, that's your second one. Then what happens? All 15 years, 80. You possibly get a third. And you'll be very hard pressed to find someone who's going to give you 3 knee replacements. I don't think I've ever seen somebody who's gotten 3 knee replacements. They don't want to do it. Too many chances of problems. So we did a stem cell procedure with him. Stem cells are basically undifferentiated cells. They went in, repaired, made new tissue. And what happened was when he came back to see us, he said, wow, and he's feeling great. I said, great. And then he stepped wrong about a month after. Stem cells improve over time, so they just lay down and make more tissue. So you can actually have it be healthier and feel better and better all the way up to 6 months to a year. And we have a whole process that we do. It's not just an injection. We also have follow-up and boosters and wonderful things. We look at inflammatory markers. We have a whole program set around it. But after a month, he stepped wrong, and his knee went over, but it only went over a little bit. And he had to put it back in place. So he came back to me super excited. He's like, oh my goodness, my knee actually caught. There was enough connective tissue to grab it. And then what happened was is we continued to work with him, and now his knee doesn't float. It's actually solid, and that was an amazing result. The reason why I like that is there's some objective marker of improvement. So that's what we're talking about. I want you to lose some weight. I want you to feel good, but I want to show it to you on a piece of paper. Many of you, if you're still out there, I think our next webinar is going to be on inflammation. We're giving that next week. We don't have the details for that now, but we're doing a webinar on inflammation. You could be having inflammation and not having any idea because you can't feel it. Nobody feels blood sugar issues until they become bad. You might feel it up in a crash. Or inflammation, you might have pain, but if you have low burning inflammation, you might not feel anything. So some of you could have inflammatory markers that are quite dangerous and you don't feel it at all. Kind of like the silent burning killer that's going on in the inside of us. And most of us know that inflammation is one of the root causes of all disease. So we're going to have a whole webinar on it, and we're going to test for that. So when we test inflammation, we test CRP, C-reactive protein, a good marker of heart issues. We test homocysteine, another inflammatory marker, also can point to things in the gut. We check for inflammation specifically in the gut. So we have multiple markers of inflammation, and then we watch them go down. Can we get everything in your life perfect? The answer is no. I can't fix your circumstances. I wish I could. I wish I could go out there and change all your relationships and give you nothing but joy in your life. But some of that work is on you, okay? What we can do is we can help you have the best percentage chance. So what that means is there's randomness in life. I can't control the people driving around you. I can't control things like COVID. But what we can control is your improvement in your immune system. If your immune system improves, the likelihood of getting COVID or getting a serious reaction from COVID goes down. If your inflammatory numbers go down, your heart attack risks go down. If your blood sugar goes down, risks for diabetes, PCOS all go down. If your thyroid numbers improve, energy improves, hair improves. If your hormone numbers improve, energy improves, weight loss improves, anxiety and all of these sleep issues and these hormonal related issues, they get better, they go down. So those are the things that we can control and improve with your help, okay? So we're having trouble reaching out to Lucy. Hey, Lucy, we're trying to talk to you right now, but we're having a little bit of trouble reaching out to you, it seems. So she knows, it seems like you know we're trying to contact you. Lucy, are you able to type at all? Lucy, just do this for me. Why don't you just get into your chat and just say hi, just so we can see you. Just say hi. Can you type that? Sometimes technology is confusing and all of that. I haven't typed anything, but I'm going to type something right now. I'm going to say hi, Lucy. I'm gonna try to do it anyway. So if you're able to do that, we're gonna know that you're still out there. So, all right, great. So what we're gonna try to do, Lucy, is if we can't contact you, we know that you have interest. Oh, hey, there's Beth. Hi, Beth, how are you? Great. Beth, have we all reached out to Beth also? Okay, make sure we're reaching out to Beth. Okay, good. So Lucy, what we'll do is if you're unable to reach out to us, we're going to make a point to definitely call you, and we're going to call you right after we're done. So you can expect a call if there were some technical difficulties and some reason why we couldn't schedule you for whatever reasons, internet or inability to find the chat function, whatever. We're going to call you physically. So go ahead, Suzanne, I know you're on mute right now, but Beverly, you're going to tell Suzanne, and we're going to make sure we call Lucy right away. We're going to call you right after we're done with this. Beth, also, are you having difficulty scheduling a consultation? Are you all good with that? Have we scheduled you? Not so much? Okay, so a question on the Q&A. Okay, great. So Lucy says, okay, you could call me. No problem. Lucy, we're happy to call you. We're going to make sure, and we're going to do that right away, okay?
Okay.
So,
I should say, Dr. Jean, just want to give a shout out to Catherine, Mary, Skip, Lynn, Helen, Joanne, Amanda, and Shelley for taking a big step forward in their health today.
All right, that's wonderful. Good job, guys. So we'll be talking to you soon. Lucy, if you don't mind, okay, Beth, we need to go ahead. Catherine, you're welcome. Thank you. Beth, we need to still reach out to you because you haven't scheduled. I see that you're interested. So Suzanne, make sure you reach out to her. Lucy, if you don't mind, if you're able, we're just going to go ahead and call you. But if we have, because we have a list of your phone numbers, but I don't know if we have your last name. So Suzanne or Beverly is there any way you can reach out to Lucy to just make sure that we can confirm her last name and her phone number so we can call her? Because I don't know if we got a few Lucys on the list or anything. Oh, okay, we have all of Lucy's info. Thank you. I'm sorry to keep hopping on you, Lucy. But we have your info. We're going to be calling you. That's great. And Beth, we're talking to you now. That's wonderful. Is there anybody else out there that hasn't got a consultation that would like one? I still see that there's some participants here. So I'm going to stay on as long as I can to make sure that I answer questions and to make sure everybody that's looking for a consultation gets one. Okay, we still have some people here. So if anybody else is still looking for a consultation and we've been slow to get to you because we've had so much interest, can you just type your name or just say hello or something, or just say me? Just type me in the chat box and we know, and then that's one way we'll know that we have to get to you. Is that possible? Because we had a couple first people like Beth, she went ahead and said, oh, I haven't scheduled yet. She went ahead and typed up to us. So is there anybody out there that can that wants a consultation that can just say, me, I'm interested, to let us know? Okay, all right, we got Beth. Great. Beth is all taken care of. That's wonderful. We have her phone number and her.
And we have Lucy's number.
Okay, great. So we're taking care of those.
Yep.
Catherine is waiting for a consult scheduling, so I see that. So Suzanne, I think, is doing most of it. So maybe Beverly, if you don't mind, could you reach out to Catherine because Suzanne's taking care of the other people? Okay. Suzanne's going to call Beth shortly. I guess we have to call you directly for some reason to make it easier. Beverly, are you able to just pop up the scheduler?
That's what I'm trying to do now.
So Catherine, we're aware of you and we're definitely not going to let you slip through the cracks. We're going to make sure you get that consultation because we don't offer free consultations that often. So we're going to make sure you get that. We want to give that to you. I want to speak to you. And I appreciate the fact that you're so engaged. Everybody that's been typing on the chat has been so engaged. We really appreciate that fact. So Beverly's going to pop up. Oh, that's great. Thank you for appreciating us. Wow, I like, well, you know, sometimes you can get a real good sense of people, even if you can't see them. Like I see the way that you post back and you write yay and how you appreciate us. I can already tell that you're a thankful person. You're a person with gratitude in your heart and that you're a proactive person, and that's great. So I humbly appreciate you, and it'll be really exciting to work with you. I can tell that already. So Beverly, she's, okay, great. Now we got your phone number too. Great. So we have her last name. So Beverly, what you can do is see if you can go ahead and get a private chat and pull up the schedule, and then that will allow you to schedule some people too. If not, we can do a call process if we have to. But we're trying for patient convenience to make sure we go ahead and schedule them right now while they're on the thing. So what you can do, Beverly, is why don't you do this? Since I'm handling the the conversation part okay, and I can actually see and respond to any patient questions. Why don't you go ahead and put yourself on mute, Beverly? Mary, okay, Mary, thank you for saying thank you. Put yourself on mute and go ahead and call some of these people. Like you can call right now while they're still watching me. You can go ahead and call Catherine as Suzanne is calling people if we're having a technical difficulty, okay? Okay, Catherine, we're scheduled, great. So Catherine, we're already scheduled. Great, we're scheduled at Wednesday, May 13th at 11 a.m. Just confirming that's a good time for you, great. Okay, Mary, you're also very welcome. We appreciate you too. Okay, all right, great. The consultation for Catherine, because you're asking, is this in person? It can be either. So what we want is a confirmation from you how you would like to do it. Most people, when we're doing a webinar, they prefer just to do telemedicine. They just want to call for their convenience so they can do it, but we're happy to see you in office. So please just type that up. If you want to be in office, say, I want to be in office, or on the phone is fine. So tell me which one you would prefer. Okay, Catherine, just say office or phone and let us know, okay? Office is great. I'd love to see it. You've seen my face. I want to see your wonderful face. As I told you, the whole process, and I think of what we're starved for, what people are starved for, of course, are answers, but people are also starved for relationships. We're starved for this ability to connect with each other in a real human way. You know, we're not just numbers. We're not just, like if your average doctor sometimes will see, average doctors like MDs will see, honestly, sometimes up to 300 people a day. And there's no time to really connect with somebody. There's no time to get a sense of that person and to really understand that person's struggles. What it is literally a screen, a medication, and moving on. But what we want to do is get a sense of you. We want to work with you as a human being, as the human being that you are, and give you the attention that you deserve and need. So when we talk to you, what we're going to talk about is real medicine. Real medicine. So if we had to talk to you about some things, like let's say, all right, we find out that gluten's a problem for you. Are you willing to give up gluten? Are we willing to be creative and find good solutions for you? Are you willing to be our partner? Are you a B or an A student? Or are you a C student, a procrastinator? I don't think anybody that's scheduling right now is a procrastinator, otherwise you wouldn't schedule. So you're not C students, so you're at least B students. And that makes me excited to work with you, okay? But we are gonna ask for a collaboration, because what we do is we work with you and we collaborate with you. We try to do it together. And that's what I think real medicine is, okay? All right, so Mary, if you had a particular question, Dr. Beverly reached out to you. We're not sure if you had something specific you wanted to ask. Okay, great. So what we're gonna do is this. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the last screen, and I'm gonna get off just because I have another patient to get to in office in just a second. And we're gonna leave Dr. Beverly and also Suzanne, and they're making sure that the last few patients are getting scheduled. So we're not gonna leave you out. Don't you worry, you will get that complimentary consultation. So thank you very much. You have been tremendous to speak with, and I'm so happy that we're going to be speaking with so many of you so shortly. So until that time, I look forward to meeting you. Dr. Beverly and Suzanne will be talking to you now. You take care, everybody.